Hey everybody, I am so excited to have Melissa with us today, and she's going to share her story. And she's actually shared her story in the group before, but we're so glad to have her on again. Fast forward about a year later, how good is life now? And so she's just going to share some more details about her healing journey, about where her life is at now, and some of the things that she's overcome. And then we're going to actually dive deep into looking at the thing that keeps us stuck from healing our symptoms, whether that's autoimmune or chronic illness and physical symptoms, or whether it's mental, emotional, or trauma-based symptoms. It's all the same. And she's going to talk about kind of the core thing that Melissa brought you out of your symptoms and allowed you to heal and get these miraculous results of no longer being autoimmune, having no trauma symptoms whatsoever. So I thank you for coming on and sharing, because I know it's vulnerable, but it's also so powerful. Like, this is the inspiration for people to know that it's possible for them too. And I wouldn't be where I am, symptom free and autoimmune free and trauma free either, if nobody had been that beacon of light for me, saying, hey, this is actually possible, and it can be easy, and it can be simple, and you can have it soon. So for people that didn't catch your story yet, and I'll post a link in the comments below when we're done so they can go back and see your full story. But can you just give a few kind of a synopsis of where you started with your symptoms and then your health issues?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to share this with everybody. I have really gotten a whole transformed life with the support of McCall and various other people along my journey. So I just want people to know that it is possible to live a great life, regardless of, trauma or disease or anything. So as I am living proof of that. So so kind of a sort of the shortest version that I can put together is so back in 2016, I was gang raped by 4 men, and then I stood in court. I decided to stand, and I stood in court for 4 years after that to hold them accountable for what had happened. And that in itself, so the actual event was very traumatizing, but the court process was an ongoing, very difficult thing and trauma to deal with. And I just kept going because I knew there was going to be something good on the other side. I held that from the very beginning. So then briefly, so after that all completed, and yes, all of them were held accountable to varying degrees. That's for, I'm actually writing a book about that. So if you want to know the details of that, I will have that out. It'll probably take about a year, maybe a little bit more to get that all out. But in the meantime, happy to talk to anybody about it. After that had completed, that was like March or May of 2019. About 6 months later, I started losing vision in my right eye. It just was peripheral, and it just kind of come over. And I had kind of a stressful job, and I thought oh, I'm just tired, no big deal. Went into ophthalmologists, all of this stuff, and everybody's like, nothing's wrong. And I'm like, whoa, but I can't see. It's a problem. And so eventually was sent to the hospital, got MRIs done. Now I do have a quote unquote, which I think is total hogwash, family history of my autoimmune condition, which I was diagnosed with, which happened to be multiple sclerosis. I guess it was called optic neuritis. The nerve between my eye and my brain was inflamed, and that's what was causing my vision problems. There was nothing physically wrong with my eye itself. It was the nerve. And so, that was really disappointing for me after going through 4 or 5 years of dealing with this court process. And I'm like, I'm just now getting ready to start over. But of course, my body had been through 4 years of stress and then had just completed that 6 months prior. It's no wonder. And I knew this in my being, and the doctors will not tell you this, but I was like, well, it's no wonder after dealing with 4 years of ongoing trauma that this would show up like this, that my body would say, hey, you've been stressing me out for way too long. I can't handle this. And my body decided to show me. And so it was I actually had to become blind, in one eye so that I could see again. And I was like, oh, like I got even deeper into my healing at that point. So I'm grateful for the whole experience. It's like I became a transformed human being throughout it all because I was willing to go there. I was willing, and I chose to go through all of that to get to the other side. And so, I was responsible with the diagnosis. I took the medications that the doctor said, and that actually made me sicker. So I was literally bedridden for 2 months after that. And I had nothing to do but sit there and figure out, like, and not figure out, but like really look at what this was for myself. And that's what I did. Because there was nothing else I could do. I was literally bedridden. Never been that way. I'm 39 years old, healthy otherwise, right? I was like, okay. So I dug deep into myself at that time. I feel like a veil was lifted, and I could just see clearly. And once that occurred, it was the experience of, for me personally, it was the experience of like spontaneous healing once I got it.
Yeah.
And I have not had any symptoms since then. Now I have stayed responsible, gone to neurologist on all this, but like the last neuro appointment that I had, he was a different neurologist than what had diagnosed me. He's like, I couldn't even tell from your new MRIs which eye it was that was the problem. And all of your lesions are pretty, like with MS, you get lesions on your brain and your spinal cord. They're pretty unremarkable. So I'm going to take that as like, that is the best that I'm going to get from here from the medical system of remission, or you can say, quote unquote, healing.
Yep.
And I'm going to take
Well,
it.
aren't they doing more tests too to even see if that's like your diagnosis, kind of like?
Well, I'm pushing them to do that. I actually now have another like it doesn't stay the same. And that was my experience in the court system too. Like the players of the game like did not stay the same. The only thing that was the same was me. I was the one common denominator. So I was like, well, I can be responsible for me.
Good for you.
And as soon as I'm responsible for myself, it doesn't matter what all the other things are that are going on externally. I get a new doctor, get a new, DA, get a new, like, whatever. It doesn't matter because I'm here, right?
Good for you. Yep. So a couple principles before we hear where you're at now, and we know you've done well. So now you've just had about a year of just being healthy and trauma free and stepping into who you are now. And what does life look now? Before you do that, I want to bring out some points because you guys hear me teaching this all the time. So I think it's so powerful when you guys, Melissa, and the graduates share, like, in your own words, like, this is how it is. And so just like Melissa, I too, and many of who we work with, the docs don't know what's wrong with you, or you finally receive some diagnosis like autoimmune or fibromyalgia, or maybe it's a label, a fake diagnosis. Maybe it's a real diagnosis, like a test said something, but you live in that. And what they teach is that's like a life sentence, and it's not. Nobody's actually asking the questions, well, hold on, what's the root cause of that? If there's something happening in the body, there's a root cause happening now. And when you address that, your symptoms go away, and it happens quickly. As Melissa said, her experiences was like this spontaneous healing. And for me too, as soon as I get to that root cause, it's like, boom, it's gone for me. Another thing that we teach as a cause is that every new illness that we develop actually comes after a major life change. And that life change could be normal, like graduating high school or starting college, like just a normal part of life. That could be something negative or shocking or surprising that changes life, better or worse. For Melissa, turning on this autoimmune condition came after completing the court stuff. You would think that'd be a good thing. Maybe it'd be a relief. Maybe she'd get healthier. But isn't it funny that after 4 to 6 months after a major life change, we end up having a new illness or condition? So if you guys have new illnesses or conditions, you can look back 4 to 6 months and find a life change. Somehow that life was different before and after. Maybe it was a wedding, and maybe it was moving, and maybe it was getting pregnant, and maybe it was, whatever. It doesn't matter if it was like good or bad. That is a trauma that we have to process. And when we don't process and cope with that and support ourselves through it, and Melissa's going to talk about today being responsible through it, that's when we actually throw this tantrum in our body and it develops in a new illness. Same as flare-ups. It's not a major life change, but it's a major life stress, that something unexpected or maybe expected, but it causes us to have this shutdown, this overwhelm, this tantrum, this like massive trigger, and maybe we're only really upset for half a day. Maybe it lasts a couple days. But if we don't work through those things and resolve them for ourselves, then we get flare ups of our old conditions. But by actually having this information, you can actually trace back every single illness and every single flare up to a specific moment in time, and you can work through it. And as Melissa said, it feels like it's a spontaneous healing. Your body then just goes back to healing and repairing itself, and that stress and that cortisol is gone, is regulated. So two more things. Melissa, what you're hearing her talk about, as she has, she worked through her trauma and she had a lot of tools from that. So when her health issue came, her autoimmunity turned on, she was able to approach that really powerfully from the start. And Melissa, what you said was, I went deeper and I really looked, and I had to look. And just like you, I was bedridden too. For me, I didn't have these tools yet. And so for me, I spent years bedridden until I could find these tools and look deeper and heal myself. And one of the things we've been talking about in the group is that when you know how to use this work, life isn't going to change. The external isn't going to change. Life's still going to be hard. It's still going to throw you curveballs. People are still going to be people. Money's still going to be money. I mean, life is up and down and all over the place. But it's, if I know that I have myself and I know what I'm committed to and I'm creating for my life, that is my solid space. And what happens is that these crucibles happen in our lives where life heats up, we get shaken up, we get challenged, we break down, whatever it is. And if you have these tools, you're going to use that crucible to get even deeper in your healing, get even stronger in yourself, and that's what, Melissa, I hear you saying. It's like, I just went even deeper. And that is what it means to reclaim yourself now. And that's a gift that lasts a lifetime. And the last thing was, you said, I chose to go through it to get to the other side. And so we have a course, and I can post it below too, but the step 2 in even healing and getting rid of your symptoms, step 2 of what we teach is that it's a choice, and you have to make the choice to heal and to be responsible with everything that means. So Melissa, fast forward now, like, how good is life now? What have you been up to this year? What does life look like? Because you kind of went from having money problems and stressed out and dealing with PTSD and dealing with autoimmunity and being lonely and all these, feeling isolated, feeling lost. I know you've shared with me, years ago, as you were working through things, who am I now then? Like, what? Now I'm free from the trauma. I don't even know who I am. We talk about having an identity crisis once you heal, because you have to figure out who you are. But where are you now? Like, how good is life now? What are some of the things you've been up to?
Yeah. So,
what did you manifest?
So let's see. We had the trauma event, then we had the autoimmune diagnosis, and then I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Since I'm not in Albuquerque anymore, but I moved right before lockdowns with COVID. And so then it was like a whole other, but I took that as an opportunity of like rest, rejuvenation. Like I explored the area, did all of that. And then, so that was sort of my pause year. That's what I call it. It was just a pause. And then I finally was like, okay, I'm ready to be off of pause. Let's press play, maybe even fast forward, or 0.25 fast, right? Like let's move this along a little bit faster. And I decided to, it's been a dream of mine for a while, since before, everything started for me, was to do van life. And so I was able to purchase a van in November of last year. And then I took on this van. So it's completely empty, cargo van. I wanted to take on the project of building it out and learning how to do that myself, which was a huge, it's like I had no prior experience of, woodworking or putting electrical systems together, nothing. So I really just put, all of my energy and, in earnest to build out the van. And so that was from November until the end of April. And the van mostly complete. I'm still working on it. There's still some other things that need to be added, but it's workable and livable at this point. So I just took the last 4 or 5 weeks and traveled around in it and loved every second of it. It was amazing being in nature by myself. I had been craving that. I was like, I knew that that was something for myself that was going to be even more like create something more for me, having some solitude in nature. So I got that in spades. It was amazing. And then now I'm just back finishing up some of the building and gonna keep on going. So, but I will say kind of in that process, so Ms. McCall was mentioning like there's that life change. Well, this was all positive life change, right? It was very intentional. I'm going to do this. This is all the things. Well, doing something that you don't know how to do and working through that, like it's really stressful. So it was a positive change, and I was learning a lot and I loved it. But there were moments in there where I was like, I can't do this. And I, was almost breaking down, and, it's like had a moment of that. But because I am so responsible and I have all these tools, it's like it literally that lasted like an evening, and I wake up the next day and I'm like, I get responsible and get to the what so and get responsible for what that is. And it's like it just dissipates. There's no problem. So I can prevent any of that, any further, triggers or, I don't know what you say, any furthering. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm very clear when I, like something is happening, I just get really clear. And then I get to the bottom of it very quickly. It doesn't take years. It takes a moment, really. It takes a moment to just choose it and move on. Um, and yeah, so I feel like, better than I've ever felt in my whole life.
I love that. And it's so true because it's like, van life is very different than home life. That's a major life change. And what I love that you're sharing is everything you're talking about doing when you notice symptoms or you notice those thoughts or the overwhelm or the triggers, how you're solving it is in here. It's in you. It's not, oh, I'm going to go eat more salads, or I'm going to go take this supplement, or I'm going to go back on my meds. Those are all band-aid approaches. It's hold on, what's going on with me, solving that, and then your body responds. And so,
Yeah.
and I love how you're saying it's in a moment. I have the same experience, and this is what I teach is, and Melissa, you don't reach out to me. Like I never talk to you. It's always just on a good kind of how's life now level, you just know how to do this stuff for yourself. And that's true power. Also, you started writing a book, which is a huge accomplishment. So I've heard you talking about van life, and I've heard you talking about writing a book for years since I've known you. And it's so neat that you are so free to just step into pursuing your real dreams. And it doesn't have to, you're not attached, like I really need this to work out, otherwise I'm going to feel like a failure. You are just so free to play
Yeah.
and to explore and to fall down and to get up and to learn.
That doesn't even register failing. Like there's no failure. I was like, whatever, I'll just learn and go on to the next adventure. Like whatever. It's not, I don't have any stories about that for me.
Yeah.
And I also don't have any stories about like what other people think. I just don't live that way. I don't care.
Yep.
It doesn't
Beautiful.
affect me.
Yeah.
It's not about me,
Yep. And would you mind sharing kind of your book, like the start of your book?
Yeah, so I went to a writer's retreat. That was my first thing that I did when I was officially, in the van doing van life. So that was amazing. So I could get, like I'm always seeking like what is, like what would assist me in really growing and expanding and my success in a certain area. And I have desired to write this book. Pretty much, I knew that I was going to write a book from the very beginning of it even happening 5 years ago. So the book is obviously it's about my my journey through the court system and my actual rape and all of that. So, but it's very, the intention is not to like sit there and continue to like wallow in this like victim. It's like, no, these are the things that are possible for anybody that might have experienced a trauma. And I really want people to get some of these main things that I got out of this. So it's a very different approach. We'll see how it's received. But yeah, I do have like essentially like a synopsis. And I've written a couple of chapters so far, but and this is all a work in progress. There's no yeah, like this is just the first draft kind of thing. So this will probably change, but
Thanks
I'd
for
love to share the
sharing.
synopsis that I wrote. And this was just, I wrote this in 15 minutes. So, all right, let me start here. In the era of #MeToo comes a true story of one woman's fight against 4 men and the harrowing journey through the justice system. It all started one dark and stormy night in an idyllic ski town in Colorado. A night of celebration quickly devolved into a night of terror and trauma. Melissa masterfully takes us on her own heroine's journey to overcome the nightmare of the night of her rape and how she navigated a broken justice system to ultimately receive justice and, more importantly, true healing. But far from what you would expect to see on crime shows on TV, it's truly a story of her own journey to complete freedom and empowerment, diving deep into the victim archetype to unravel past threads that led her up to that fateful night, taking responsibility for one's own life, enrolling a rock-solid support team, giving up shame, cultivating courage and vulnerability, and forgiveness are just some of the themes. There are many lessons that she embodies throughout that can completely transform how victims of rape can turn the worst event into one that they can see as a gift, one that empowers them and allows them to move through the world with confidence and wholeness and rediscover their own power and magic. Those ready to confront their own shadows and reclaim their power will immeasurably benefit from this true story.
I love it. Thank you. How vulnerable to share, but there's such power and hope in that and in everything you embody and have taken on. And just for sake of time, I want to leave time so you can talk about this victim archetype. And I know for me, I hated that word. I had done personal development a long time. And so I had already in my mind worked on victim. In fact, up to the point I was really starting to work on it in the way I teach on a deeper level. I would make sure I had a whole language. I would not say any words that sounded victim. I already had a language and a vocabulary that was like, I'm 100% responsible. So when I realized that I still was a complete victim, I really fought that because I was like, no, I value taking responsibility. I don't speak victim. I don't act victim. Like I look at situations from I'm responsible. And one of my mentors said, but how are you feeling on the inside? And I was like, oh, well, I'm pissed off and I'm unhappy and I'm like pushing through all of this stuff on the inside, just saying the right words because I want to be responsible. But the victim is so deeply ingrained. So I would say, and for those listening, if you still have symptoms, you have victim. And it's something, and in what we teach, it's more like, where am I being victim? And I do this ongoingly for me. Oh, where am I victim? Because I'm human. So it's almost catching and looking and being curious, where is this true? Where am I being victim? Where is the victim in me? That's this work, rather than thinking you've arrived or thinking that maybe you're bad and wrong for being victim, or maybe that you want to be a victim. Nobody here wants to be a victim. So I wanted to preface that because when we start talking about victim, it can be really triggering and confronting. But if we can stay open and curious, it's going to teach you what you're missing in order to move forward. So Melissa, 2 things, like teach us about the victim with health and teach us about this victim with trauma and how you really see it and what you tell people, and that they can have these results too.
Well, there's so many layers to it.
Yes.
I'm trying to like what's like one thing that I could say here that would make a difference. So when I went through the rape and all of that, some point down the line, after that happened, I actually got responsible for where I was a victim in my life prior to that. And that really opened things up for me because it was like, oh my gosh, like I've been perpetuating this, this state of mind, this victim state of mind for a very long time. It would show up for me as a lot of like complaining, like, oh well, this person did that and this happened, and like I'm never, like I never get a break, and like all these stories that are not true. But that's how it was showing up for me before I was even truly, quote unquote victimized, right? So it actually gave, I took the opportunity once I saw this to really look at how I was responsible for perpetuating this in my life. And I was just great. Like I got, like I would ask the question like, why God, why me, all of that. And I just got that, like it was like, well, why not me? Why like I have all the tools and the power, and this is just showing me how much power I actually have, because we all have that. Every single person, not without fail. There, then this is just a whatever, like a truth thing that is true. But yeah, so choosing like to just look at that. It wasn't like that I was bad or wrong for, oh, I was victimized. And it wasn't like I, like when I say I was 100% responsible for my rape, it's not like I'm letting them off the hook. Like, no, like it was my fault. It's not, there's nothing to do with fault or blame or anything like that. When I'm 100% responsible, then I get to choose how it goes. And literally, it's like, I don't know, I had the experience of going through court and everything. People don't people don't get what I got in that system. Like that's just not a normal way in the world, the way that this world is right now.
You're saying that the
Because
outcome of
yeah,
your court proceedings was extraordinary. Like, I just want people to be clear about this. The outcomes Melissa got was not what is probable. It defied the statistical odds because of who she was being about it. And that's the same in all of our lives when, depending on who we're being and the choices we're making and the mindset we have, that's what changes how our money shows up in our jobs and our relationships and the people in our life and all of our circumstances. So
yeah.
Melissa defied statistical odds by using these tools, being empowered and taking deep responsibility. That's a big deal.
And the thing is, like, even if I hadn't gotten the results that I had, I still would have won. Like, it didn't matter. Like, even if they got off scot free, no problem, I still would have won. I still would have succeeded because I was 100% responsible. It's just that, like, when you get into that space, it's like magic. It's like power. It's like you can have anything you want. You just like you're that clear and you're that responsible that it's like abracadabra, this is how it's going to go. And that is exactly how it went. I couldn't even, like I get goosebumps. I'm like, I don't even know. Like sometimes I'm still like working through like, how did this actually like, how can this be replicated in the world? I'm still doing that, but I have had this experience of just like, I say it and it happens because I'm responsible, because I have looked at and am willing to look at my victim, not from a place of being a victim, but just like, okay, that doesn't work, right? It's just what's workable, what's not workable. It's integrity.
Yeah. And can you relate for people? I think it's so different because, as you were sharing with me before our talk, in the medical system, they're looking at all the external and they want to cut out parts of your brain and body and things.
Mm-hmm.
And can you relate this to like physical symptoms? Like, how
Yeah.
does being responsible in your mind or being victim correlate to becoming symptom free?
Yeah. So I have just a strong belief that everything has like a root cause. Everything is like solvable. Everything, you're super powerful. You can heal yourself. You can do all these things. you need to learn how to do so. That's all that's missing. And maybe you don't have the correct guides, because in the way of the world today, it's like, take this pill, have this surgery, like remove things out of your body, because I'm pretty sure like our body, like we need all the things in our body. It's important, right? But that things can be cured from that. So there was one story of a guy that is a neurosurgeon that says like he actually is low paid neurosurgeon because he does not perform surgery on people. He asks them like, how was your childhood? How are these, gets to the root cause and refers them to the people that are actually going to help alleviate that root cause. And funny, they never come back for the surgery. Like, this is what's possible. For me, I just, when I got the diagnosis of my autoimmune disease, like while I took some medication, like it felt like anytime I would take that medication, it felt wrong in my body. And then I started paying attention to that. So then I started tapering off. I was like, this is not the solution for me. I'm going to take responsibility. I dug deep. I figured out, I was like, and it was like, no wonder that this showed up. It seemed like the most common sense thing. And the doctors will tell you that it's complete hogwash. And I just tell them, like, you don't know what you're talking about. I know my body. You don't. Thank you for your opinion. I will consider that. But if it's not serving me, I just don't choose to take it on. Like, I just didn't choose to take on this idea that an autoimmune condition like multiple sclerosis is something that is going to be debilitating for my whole life long. Like, that's just not true. And I just held that because I know it's not true.
Yep. Well, and clearly the lab tests have proven that it's not true because of your stance and because of taking responsibility for even how it showed up. Awesome. And same with trauma. How do you, I know kind of in your travels, you've met people that are really like taken aback by you saying, no, don't feel sorry for me. This is the best thing ever. And I'm responsible. And they're like, you're not responsible for this trauma. What message are you sending? Can you speak to that? And one of the favorite things I hear you say all the time is, and anyone can have that. I healed and anyone can do that. Yeah. And I just decided that I'd be symptom free, and I am, and anyone can have that. And you're just so clear that it's available for everyone.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that a little bit? And we'll wrap up here in just a few minutes, but
Yeah, I guess like I have this mindset or perspective that every human is divine. We were brought here as we're gifts, and we're just here to uncover what those gifts are for for humanity itself. So that is something that's like a deeply held belief for me that I feel like serves me very well. So I see, when I meet anybody, it's like there's something divine in them. There's just some things in your way. That's it. If you are willing to look at those things without getting into a shame spiral or any of that, like if you're willing to look there and be diligent about it, and when because it's not like it's magic and like boom, I was healed. It's like I had to go through the trenches. I had to dig through hell to get to the other side, but I was willing to go there. Like, are you willing to go there? Because it's there. It is there for you, and it's going to take something. And and it's not super easy. It's worth it.
Clearly. Yeah, it is.
Worth it. There might be some pain, but then take responsibility for the pain. Take, like, okay, well, why is that? Just keep looking and keep doing, the other layer. And it's not like, I have no problems in my life, right? And or that I like that this is like I'm never a victim ever again. Like, no, there's anytime that something comes up, I'm like, it's honestly like one of the first places I was like, how am I being a victim about this? How am I not being responsible for it? What, like what would make a difference here? Why is this showing up like this, so that I can learn more about myself? It's like I just look at it as an opportunity to like deepen my understanding of my own power.
Brilliantly said. Yep. And that's
that mindset, it moves quickly.
Yes. Yep. And my life's not problem free.
Trained in that mindset. That's what it takes. Like, you have to be trained in that mindset. And it's very different than what you will hear in the normal world.
Yep. Absolutely.
But you don't want normal results, so let's live in the extraordinary world. McCall will help you do that for sure. She helped me, and has been a huge support for me. So
Awesome.
It wasn't always like this.
Yep. And any last parting thoughts? If there's people in the group who are on the fence or they have these symptoms and they don't really, they're not diving in to go down this path because it's like it's scary, maybe it's weird, maybe
Mhm.
it's like not what the doctors say, maybe it's just a totally new concept. Do you have anything you want to tell them?
I think if people are in fear or they're scared to take a leap, scared to take the step, um, it's like that's one indicator that you probably should, number one. Number two, it's like get into the actually like the what so of the present moment. That's what I call it. It's like what so. It's like right now I'm sitting in a room, I'm on my computer, I'm speaking with somebody on this computer, which is like magic, right? That's just what so. That's what's happening right now. Anything that's like I'm so sad or there's all these things like that's kind of external and doesn't matter. So if you get really present, am I safe right now? Yes. If you're not safe right now, then do what you need to do to be safe. That's a present moment. Like get what's so and be responsible for that. But once you get to that, then you can make decisions from that place. Then you can move forward because being in the story and all of this and the shame and all of that, like that's not true. It's not going to move you forward. Get present, get into this moment. I'm safe. Things are good, like nothing bad is happening. Now that's a foundation to move forward.
Brilliantly said. I love that. And most people, as we teach in the group, you guys are stuck in the stories that are going to keep you choosing the same suffering and keep you in your symptoms. So what Melissa is saying is get clear on what's so. Are you going to keep your problems or not? Are you going to keep your symptoms or not? And then you have a choice to dive in and deep and do the work following Melissa's path, following the path of what I've done to heal myself and become symptom free. You guys see hundreds of testimonials in the group of people being symptom free. Am I going to go down that path or am I going to hang on to what I already know? And that's the simple choice. And then you get handheld and you just learn everything you need to know. And then you're like Melissa, she's just self-sufficient. So,
Yeah, you can't know how it's going to go, and it probably won't be easy. And like I said before, it is worth it. It is worth every tear. It's worth everything to get your life back, or get your life. I mean, get your life for the first time.
Yeah.
Transformation is just absolutely real, possible, and lasting.
Absolutely. So if you guys resonate with Melissa's story, she's just a normal, regular person, just like you and I. And if she can do it and I can do it and all these other people can do it, you can too. And if you want to make that choice to get to those root causes and solve them and become symptom free and become trauma free and move forward in pursuing your dreams, passions, and goals, that's what we teach. So schedule a breakthrough call with me. It's free. I'll post the link in the description above, probably. And we're going to sit down and talk and dive into your symptoms and struggles and where you're at and everything you've tried, why it hasn't worked. And we're going to get really clear on the path moving forward for you to be symptom free in a matter of months. And that's what our clients do. Those who are no longer willing to suffer, they make the choice to be responsible for what happens next in their lives, and they step forward. That's it. It's that simple. They become symptom free in a few months. So book the breakthrough call. I will likely have homework for you and may request some more information, like maybe seeing your past lab tests. You'll also want to make sure that all decision makers are there. So if you have a spouse or partner that needs to be there, we do require that all decision makers are on the call. And then that's a life-changing call. So if you're a good fit for us, we'll look at that and look at the process that Melissa has gone through and that our clients go through. If you're not a fit or you need something else, I'm going to tell you very upfront that that's what you need and point you in the right direction for you. So either way, it's a win-win and a life-changing call because you're making the choice. I'm no longer going to stay on this life path. I'm going to hold on to my symptoms and trauma. This shall be another way. I shall heal and I will be symptom free, and that's a done deal. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get there. So thanks again, Melissa, for sharing your story. And I'm so glad you're in our group and you share and you interact. And if anybody has any questions or you want to share your own symptoms or struggles, please let us know in the comments below. And I just hope everybody has a great day. And Melissa, I'm like, I couldn't be more proud. I couldn't be more in love. You're beautiful. Like, you are just an inspiration. So thank you for who you are and for sharing who you are.
Yeah, thank you for who you are. It has made all the difference.
You're welcome. Okay, bye-bye, guys.